Gonna wait. Sorry, we're a couple of minutes late. Just some tech issues on my side there, but we will just wait a minute or so for everybody else to join, and then we'll get started.
Great. Can I just check that you can hear me okay, Hannah?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Right. Most of us are in now. If anyone else joins, they can catch up, of course. So I will very briefly introduce our presenters for today's webinar. So this is with I can't even talk. Econocom. I can't even talk this morning. And I know it's Friday. I've just done a lot of talking on a podcast, so I've just lost my hosting skill there and that tech stuff. So introducing Samantha Bailey and Richard White. Richard's going to lead the webinar for us today. So Econocom are part of the group here. So this is the UK entity, and they're a leading European digital services and financial solutions provider who are based in London and Birmingham. They've got decades of experience with over 50 years this September. And then the only market player who offer a 360 expertise through a combination of project financing, equipment distribution, and digital services. They currently operate in 16 countries with over 8,500 employees and have made 2.7 billion revenue in 2022. In 2021, they acquired the majority stake in Trams Limited, which is an award-winning IT solutions expert entrusted by hundreds of companies across the enterprise sector. And Trams excels at offering unbiased advice on the latest IT options in the market and delivering tailor-made IT solutions that cater to the specific needs of their customers. Together, their partnership offers a one-stop shop for all things tech, offering you the equipment, services, and flexible financing options that can cater to support your business's needs. So over to you, Richard. Thank you so much for taking today's webinar and enjoy the session.
Amazing. Thank you, Hannah. And thank you everyone for joining today's session about the power of technology and how giving employees a choice over the devices that they use at work can be a powerful tool to recruit and retain top talent for your organization. So as Hannah said, my name's Richard. I work in vendor alliances at Trams Econocom, and it's my pleasure to be hosting the webinar this morning. As mentioned, my colleague Samantha Bailey is also on the call, who will be helping out with some of the polls that we're going to run, and also monitoring the chat for any questions. So we will have time for a Q&A at the end, so please put any questions that you have into the chat. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be looking at some recruitment and retention trends in 2023, before moving on to what employee choice actually is and how it can be used to help you attract the best people into your workplace, but critically, how to keep them happy and productive. But I would like to start with a quick poll that should be appearing on your screen any moment. So it would be great if you could take a moment to answer this question. So if your company let you choose, which device would you like to use at work? Would you rather be given a Windows PC? So that would include Dell, HP, Lenovo, Microsoft Surface. Would you prefer to be given a Chromebook? Or would you prefer if your organization provided you with a Mac to work from? And I'm just going to give you a few moments to have a think and then submit your choices. And then I can't see the results. I'm going to rely on Sam to let us know how the poll results are looking.
Okay, so we've got, at the moment, we've got about 30% for the Windows PC, and about 67% for the Apple Mac.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So I would say those results actually really kind of follow the average split that we see from the multiple studies that have been done asking exactly the same question. where it's usually a little bit higher. So typically, when you ask an entire organization, around 70% of people would choose Apple over either Windows or Chrome. So we'll come back in a little bit to see why we typically see that. But it's based on a number of different things and different requirements that drive the preference for other devices. Could be based on your job role, maybe some accessibility needs, and also platform familiarity. So let's take a look at the current recruitment landscape. And you may be familiar with or have heard the term thrown around, this war for talent. But what do we really mean by this? Well, there's a limited supply of workers with in-demand skills. So employers are having to battle out to gain access to the most highly sought after employees. It's a dynamic that used to be a temporary market condition, but with estimates that global talent shortages could reach 85 million by 2030, it's clear that a market-wide talent shortage is on for the long term. According to Kronos, 87% of HR professionals say improving retention rates are amongst their highest priority over the next 5 years. But competing with rivals for the best and brightest employees might be something new for many organizations, and it can be really difficult to address this. With economic uncertainty, it can be an extra challenge to get approval for things like increasing salaries or improving your employee benefits package. So with those difficult market conditions in mind, accessing the best talent means looking at these 3 key areas. First is your employer brand. Now, this is how prospective and current staff perceive working within your business. In the past, putting energy into developing an employer brand may have set you apart, but soon you may actually stand out as an employer to be avoided if you haven't addressed this effectively. One element that impacts this perception is the technology that you offer. Does your organization's IT demonstrate investment in staff and a modern workspace, or does it resemble old corporate company views where employees are issued standard devices regardless of individual requirements? The second point to consider is that Gen Z are now joining the workforce. These young recruits will bring new skills as well as shifting cultural views and values. Their cohort is the first that are true digital natives. And so thought must really be given about how you're going to appeal to them as an organization and how they'll fit in alongside other colleagues to ensure you get the most out of everyone in your team. So if we go back to those poll results, I mentioned that on average 70% choose Mac when asked, but this is actually much higher amongst Gen Z, many of whom will not have actually used Windows devices in school or at university and are actually far more familiar with Apple or Google ecosystems, having been born into a world where iPhone and iPad has always existed. And finally, improving candidate and employee experience is vital for retaining staff. First impressions count, and that certainly goes for welcoming someone into your team. 20% of turnover happens in the first 45 days of work at a new company. So you need to get that induction process right. Driven and ambitious employees will want to hit the ground running and won't remain in an environment where the technology that they're given to work on frequently crashes, runs slowly, and impacts their productivity. In today's tech-based global economy, where digital transformation is reshaping industries and job markets, companies that invest in their technology offering could have access to the best talent, giving them a significant advantage over those that don't. So what actually is employee choice, and how can it help your organization to attract and retain top talent? Well, in short, employee choice programs offer personnel the option to work on a device of their preference. It's all about empowering team members to select the technology that will enable them to do their best work, and give them agency over the tools that make them most productive. After all, they're going to know their requirements far better than anyone else. Personal technology and the devices your people use are increasingly being seen as a high value and intrinsic part of the workplace experience, with remote and hybrid working further increasing our reliance on technology. An employee choice program does not mean giving employees no limits on the device offering. It's really about expanding your IT offering to support more than just Windows. When you give people the power to work in the way they want with the tools they love, they're inspired to do their best work. So here we've got 4 of the key benefits of choice programs when it comes to recruitment and retention. We're going to start by looking at employee choice as a way to boost employee satisfaction within your business. So these choice programs give people freedom, a sense of empowerment, and also contribute to a wider corporate culture of ownership that personal preference inspires. Employee satisfaction is a key indicator of a successful workplace, and it's intrinsically linked to retention of staff. If we look at IBM, who offer device choice internally, they found that their Mac users were 17% less likely to leave the business. Introducing choice into the workplace provides other opportunities to elevate the employee experience. Organizations that implement choice are increasingly setting them up as corporately owned, personally enabled devices. The beauty of this is that employees can log in as a corporate user during the day, but are also afforded the opportunity to access their device for personal use outside of work. This is regarded as a great incentive for employees, as they get to use their device in their own time with no cost to them, while still maintaining corporate security standards and protecting both the organizations and the individual's sensitive data. The second benefit is that happier staff are going to be more productive. It might sound really obvious, but if your employees are provided devices that they're familiar with and enjoy using outside of work, they're going to have a frictionless IT experience, which naturally results in enhanced productivity at work. When your people already feel confident using the device that they're given, there's less need for training, and they can be operational and productive in a fraction of the time. We're in this place now where we sort of have this bizarre situation where individuals have access to better technology in their personal lives than they do at work. And you might have already experienced this, where employees are bringing their own devices into work out of frustration with the laptop that they might have been issued. And I've certainly seen colleagues in the past come into the office with their personal MacBook, for example, sat there next to their work-issued Lenovo ThinkPad, trying to complete tasks. Technology is supposed to be an enabler, not a blocker. So staff that get to work with their chosen device also register half the number of support requests. And this means that there are less interruptions to their productivity and also less time logging IT queries. So it means that your IT personnel will also be grateful for the time that they are able to reclaim to invest in more critical tasks rather than answering help desk calls. So as a group of office managers and HR leaders, you're going to be handling a lot of sensitive information for employees on a regular basis. And it's vital that you and your employees know that this information is in safe hands, especially as more of this data is accessed outside the safety of your company network due to remote hybrid working. The technology that you put in the hands of your users has a big part to play in securing data and minimizing cyber risks. Introducing Mac as an option for employees raises the bar on defense measures for your entire organization, thanks to built-in security features like data encryption and virus protection that come standard. Together, this helps alleviate the security burden on the user and plays an important role in the prevention of security events and data breaches. So as mentioned at the beginning, we're in quite uncertain times, and no doubt a lot of us are experiencing spending cuts or having to put temporary freezes on spending. So why is choice something that you can start looking at immediately? Well, it's because the budget for devices already exists within your business. IT is refreshed every few years as part of the natural cycle of how devices are deployed, meaning the investment in technology is going to be made regardless. As such, it makes sense to elevate the opportunity of introducing real device choice and unlocking additional gains that might otherwise have been overlooked. Furthermore, offering the choice of Mac and other Apple devices could add significant value for employees without having to incur additional expenditure on new staff benefits, such as incremental annual leave or other perks. When it comes to introducing Mac as part of your employee choice strategy, you're probably thinking, we can't do that, it's going to be too expensive. However, the economic justification is hard to ignore when you look at the total cost of ownership. And this means factoring in the overall cost of technology through its lifespan, rather than just looking at the initial upfront cost. A recent study by Forrester Consulting concluded that switching to Mac offers better value versus PC. In fact, investing in Mac could save your business around $850 per device over a 3-year period. Why is this? Well, it's because Mac typically has a longer device life cycle. They're reliable and encounter fewer issues. Employees value the device that they've been given, and so they take better care of it, treating it as if it's their own. Apple devices also hold much higher residual value. That means that after 3 or 4 years, when it comes to refresh, a Mac still has around £300 to £500 value, while PCs typically have no trade-in value and often have a cost associated with disposing of them responsibly. So this can be taken a step further with the option of device subscription, which is something that we offer through Econocom, where customers are able to offer, for example, a brand new 15-inch MacBook Air that was only released by Apple this month for less than £40 per device. Now, I'm going to show you a quick video about the software giant SAP and their experience of delivering employee choice that includes the option for every team member to choose a Mac should they wish. So here's the video.
At SAP, innovation is no side effect. It's actually part of our DNA. More than 70% of the world's transactions touch an SAP system. Our vision is to help the world run better and improve people's life. We fundamentally believe we need to give people the choice about how they work. At SAP, everybody can choose a Mac, because I truly believe by giving that choice, this will unleash all the potential everybody has.
One of the reasons that we love employee choice so much is, especially when we're recruiting, it provides a competitive advantage. It brings in the best and the brightest.
The experience our employees want is the same in the business context what they want on the private side. That seamless switching from one device to another, that is an experience our employees are looking for.
The culture of IT at SAP has changed drastically over the last couple of years, and Mac is a great catalyst for this. We started a conversation with our employees to understand what devices they want and what they want to do with those devices. Because Mac really combines everything. This consumer-like enterprise experience, great developer tools, but also third-party apps like Microsoft 365.
The zero-touch deployment for Macs allows for secure onboarding, whether you're at home, you're in the corporate office, or at a coffee shop.
People have exactly the same experience on the Mac that they already know and love from iPhones and iPads.
The SAP Mac community is so successful because of how much passion people have for their devices.
People can engage, share, and interact with other Mac users and help themselves without reaching out to traditional IT support.
In the community of users leveraging and using productively a Mac, we see absolutely a lower average ticket volume, which brings us a pretty significant business benefit.
What we've seen at SAP is an increase of employee satisfaction, but also IT client satisfaction. And this is just a reconfirmation of the right decision to provide choice.
Employee choice really matters because employees matter. It puts the decision in their hands and they feel more engaged and more empowered. And that's why it's important to us to offer Mac at SAP.
So there's a couple of things that really stood out to me during that video, and we're going to run another quick poll to see kind of what your reaction was. So having watched that video, in your opinion, which of the following benefits experienced at SAP do you feel is the most compelling reason to offer employee choice? Is it about unleashing an employee's full potential? Do you think that the priority should be around providing a competitive advantage when recruiting? Is it about giving employees the same quality of technology at work that they have at home? Is it delivering a seamless device deployment experience, something that we call zero-touch deployment? Or was the thing that stood out for you about reducing the burden on IT teams? So hopefully, as I've gone through and read out all of those options, you've had a chance to have a think and cast your vote. So I'm going to ask Sam, have we got any results through yet?
A couple of responses coming in. I think the most popular so far is the unleashing employees' full potential.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's I think with the poll it was, yeah, you only had a single choice. I think they're all really compelling reasons, but yeah, it's certainly for SAP that talk about their culture of innovation and allowing staff to reach their full potential. I think that was definitely the message that came through kind of the strongest. So if you're feeling ready to champion employee choice and pursue the prospect of empowering your people with the technology that they love, then you're going to need to start talking to your peers and other stakeholders about advancing this strategy. So here's a kind of three-phase approach to delivering a choice initiative. The first phase is about identifying and securing executive sponsorship, and that's really critical to the success of an employee choice program. Key milestones during that phase are going to include establishing a program manager, defining what your desired outcomes of the program are, reviewing any associated costs, so that's going back to that total cost of ownership piece. And also we'd recommend completing a survey to understand and confirm user demand and also persona identification. Phase 2, implementation. This happens once you have stakeholder buy-in, and it starts with looking at your existing IT infrastructure to ensure that Mac, Windows, and Chrome devices can be seamlessly and securely managed by IT. This is something that we help customers do, and we do it by conducting an audit that we call our readiness review. And you might also run a proof of concept at this stage with a small number of staff to ensure that all the applications that your organization run are available across those different operating systems. Program launch is the final phase and focuses on great user experience. Key milestones during this phase include activating a device ordering portal. So at Trams Econocom, we have our own portal that can be branded to our customers' requirements and also preloaded with those approved devices so that employees can go on, select their device, but also arrange for delivery and collection of the old device at a time that suits them best. It's also important to gather feedback for ongoing user experience improvements. So as we're coming up to past, I'm going to quickly go through some of the key takeaways before we open up to any questions. So the first one really being, it's time to make this investment in your people. Employees have got high expectations of their employers and they want to feel valued. It's also a time to level up your employer value proposition and make sure that you're an appealing place to work for the younger generation. Also, you can look at embracing employee choice as a tool to retain talent and also help employees to be the most productive by giving them the tools that they enjoy using. And the final point here is about looking at reducing operating costs by considering the total cost of ownership of your technology. So I'm now going to ask Sam if we've had any questions and also just give you an opportunity, if you've had any questions over the last sort of 25 minutes, to put them in the chat box and we will try and answer as many as we can. So, Sam, have we had any questions through?
I'm just waiting to see if there's any coming in now. We've got one around so some of the savings that you mentioned. So you mentioned you can save $850 over the 3 years. Could you give a bit more detail on how this is to be achieved?
Yes, yeah, of course. So to recap that, when considering the cost of providing a workforce with the best devices, it's really important to look beyond the acquisition cost. So if you're looking at a new MacBook, for example, you might just see the £1,300 price tag compared to your £900 HP EliteBook, for example. But that average saving of over $800 that was reported by Forrester is due to a couple of factors. So Apple products retain significant value over their life cycle. So that's a really important one because it actually means that that difference between PC and Mac can be recouped at the end of the 3 or 4 year life cycle. There's other cost savings as well. So software costs are lower because Apple operating system updates are all free. So you're not paying for additional OS licensing. And also there's the support and operational costs that are reduced because of the build quality of Mac. So it means that there's less to go wrong. And also, as was mentioned in that video and something I touched on, which is that, you know, regardless of whether it's a PC or a Mac that a individual chooses to use, if they're familiar with how it works, they're going to be able to resolve a lot of their own problems and not be constantly logging tickets with a help desk, which, you know, ultimately is also going to lead to a cost saving. So yeah, those are kind of all of the things that I would say that go towards that that saving. The other point, of course, is that all of those things can kind of also be brought together and put into a device leasing option. And that can also make Mac a lot more affordable if you can spread that cost over 3 or 4 years. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you. We did have an earlier question as well when we did the first poll. We had someone asking what a Chromebook actually is.
Okay.
Slightly less known device.
Yeah, it's interesting. So if you were going into school now, you would quite likely be using Chromebook over PC. So I think certainly for me and everyone that came sort of through school before me, the first experience of a computer that we had was a Windows PC, and it's sort of how we learned to use computers. That's not the case anymore. So Google have got their own operating system that runs on their own devices, and also some other laptop vendors run this operating system. So essentially, Chromebooks, Chrome OS is Google's operating system. So it's the equivalent of Windows for Microsoft and Mac OS for Apple. But yes, it's the reason that it's becoming more of a conversation rather than just PC versus Mac is because, like I said, those that are going through school at the moment are likely to be using Chrome. So when they come into the workforce, they're not necessarily going to know how to use Windows. So that's why it's becoming part of this choice discussion.
I think that's all the questions. I don't know if anyone else wants to pop anything else in the chat. I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Cool. Whilst we're just giving another couple of minutes then, in case anything comes in, I'll just take this opportunity to say that if choice programs are something that you want to learn a bit more about, Trams-Econocom is a long-standing Apple authorized reseller. So we're very well placed to help you with those types of solutions, and very much geared towards looking at what your needs are, and helping you through each of those three phases that I briefly mentioned. So whether you're looking at maybe deploying Apple for the first time, if you're currently just deploying PC, or if you're looking to add Apple devices to an existing estate, something that we see quite often is everybody gets a PC unless you work in marketing or unless you're a developer, in which case you get a Mac. But actually more commonly now, businesses are looking to expand that offering more widely for all the reasons that we've been through. So if that's something that you're interested in, those are all things that we can help with, and we've got a lot of knowledge and experience across procurement of devices, the deployment, the management, the security, and really making sure that all of these different operating systems work together harmoniously. So yeah, if that is something you're interested in, make sure that you leave your contact details in the chat and we can arrange a time for a call.
Perfect, thank you. I think that's probably all of the questions for today, but like Richard said, if anyone has anything else that they'd like to ask or follow up on afterwards, then feel free to get in touch. I think Hannah has just had to jump onto another call, so we will close this off on her behalf. So thank you very much to everyone for joining, and of course to Richard for presenting. And yeah, like we said, if you'd like to ask any more questions, then just get in touch.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.